Hey there, this is your host, Dr. Lori Friesen, and you're listening to episode number 342 of Beginning Teacher Talk. Just because you're a beginning elementary teacher, there is no need for you to struggle like one. I'm dedicated to being the mentor for you that I wish I had when I first started teaching. In this podcast, we talk about all of the behind-the-scenes stuff about teaching you really need to know, but didn't learn when you were in university. And we share the most amazing resources, tips, and strategies out there so you can become the teacher you've always dreamed of being. Let's start the show. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lori Friesen, and I am so excited to be here with you today because if you're a new teacher and you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're an experienced teacher and you're looking for fresh ideas, you are totally in the right place because this podcast is all about giving you those practical and easy to implement strategies that will make your teaching life easier. So today we're talking about a topic that I know so many of you have questions about, especially because we just wrapped up a whole series on helping kids to focus in terms of test-taking strategies. We're going to zoom in specifically on how to teach kids to focus no matter what time of the year it is. And I know if you're listening to this when it first comes out, this episode, it's spring, and there's no time that this can be more helpful than when kids feel like they've got that spring fever itch and they just cannot wait to get outside and, do all the fun things that summer and spring, allow us to do because they get to be outside more. So if you're feeling like right now keeping your students focused is like herding cats, you're not alone. But don't worry, by the end of this episode, you are going to have a toolbox of simple, effective strategies to help your students build their attention skills in ways that are fun and meaningful. So I've divided this podcast into 3 sections to make it most helpful for you. In the first part, we're going to talk about how you can build attention through simple and engaging activities. In part 2, and games, of course, there's always games. In part 2, we're going to touch on some easy mindfulness and relaxation techniques that you can use to teach kids the art of focus, because it really is an art and a practice, especially in today's world. We'll talk more about that. And then finally, in part 3, we're going to talk about intentional and gradual focus building and how you can do that in your classroom. So let's get started. So first part we're going to talk about is building attention through activities in your classroom. So one of the best ways to help our students develop their ability to focus is by integrating activities that naturally build attention into your daily routine. So this isn't about doing something extra. So let's talk about 3 quick types of activities you can start using right away. Brain breaks, which you're probably already using, focus building games, and movement-based strategies. So first of all, brain breaks. We all know that kids can't focus for long periods without a little rest. And that's where brain breaks come in. But when I talk about brain breaks, I don't mean just putting on Go Noodle. I'm talking about quick, engaging activities that you can keep on hand that help re-energize your students and give their brains a chance to recharge. So let me give you some examples of some of my favorites. The first one is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 game. So keep this in your back pocket for whenever you need it. But basically, you just ask students to quickly name 5 things they can see, 4 things they can touch, 3 things they can hear, 2 things they can smell, and 1 thing they can taste. And it's a grounding activity that brings them back to the present moment, helps their brains to focus and recenter. So again, 5 things they can see, 4 things they can touch, 3 things they can hear, 2 things they can smell, 1 thing they can taste, bringing back to their senses, back to the present moment. The other thing I love to do, the second activity, is a dance freeze party. So quick, so easy. So just put on a fun song and let your kiddos dance. But when the music stops, they have to freeze in place, right? So it's great for getting wiggles out while still building self-control. And it makes sure that things don't get, too wild and out of control because they have to freeze. And you could go, oh my gosh, the winner of this round is so-and-so, whoever froze in the craziest position or something like that. You might have with the funniest expression on your face or with the scariest expression on your face, whatever you want to do to build it in to have a little bit more fun with that. And then the third one I love to use is stretch and wiggle. And yes, you can use this in upper elementary too. So don't think that just because it has the word wiggle in it, that you can't use it in upper elementary. I used this in fourth grade with great success. So basically, you just lead the class through a series of stretches and silly movements. So get them out of their desks, standing beside their desks, do like wiggling fingers, shaking their arms, pretending to climb a ladder. Just 2 or 3 minutes of movement can do wonders for focus. And if you are like, I don't know how to come up with ideas for this, I have a great resource inside the Classroom Management Club called Mystery Movement Breaks, and it's wonderful for this. It's very simple to use. I give you 16 cards that you just print out, like run on the spot for 30 seconds, shake it all out, march in place for 30 seconds, touch your toes, like a bunch of different things. And then what you do is you hold the 16 cards like a fan with the blank side out and invite a student to choose 3, 4, or 5 cards. So you could even have different students choose different cards. And then you place the cards in the order they were chosen into a pocket chart, put on some music, and then enjoy a quick mystery movement break. It's so easy, it's so fun, and it's so quick. And of course, research backs up the importance of brain breaks. Studies such as the one published in Educational Psychology Review, which I can link to for you in the show notes, show that short movement breaks improve attention and performance in young students. So if your admin is like, wait a minute, you're wasting too much time on these kinds of things, you can say it's actually backed by research and you can show them the study, right? So that's a really good thing to have in your back pocket. The other thing I want you to think about is how you can use games to build focus. Sometimes we think in our minds that we're wasting time when we play games, but playing games that require attention can help students strengthen their ability to concentrate without even realizing they're practicing. We don't even realize it sometimes. But here's a couple of classics that work beautifully. The first one is Simon Says, right? This game is perfect for teaching students to listen carefully and follow instructions. And then you can throw in some silly or tricky commands to keep it fun and challenging. We had so much fun creating a brand new resource inside the club for you with a grab and go version of Simon Says with all sorts of silly commands like touch your elbow to your chin. Okay, just try it. Or Simon Says hop like a kangaroo, right? Or Simon Says walk like a crab. But whatever silly commands you can think of, but mixing this up and having some fun with a game they already know, especially if you're in the midst of testing week, can be such a fun and easy stress reliever that does not rely at all on technology. And again, helps to build students' ability to focus and concentrate without even realizing that they're practicing. The second game that's really simple and easy to use is a classic you already know, and that's memory match, right? So use a set of cards to play a memory matching game, either as a group or in small groups or stations. You can even tie the content to what you're teaching, like math facts or vocabulary words. I used to love using memory to help my kids practice learning high frequency words or to practice their weekly spelling words, but it's also a great game to pull out to help kids learn seasonal vocabulary as well. But memory is literally designed to help kids improve focus skills, which is something that is increasingly lacking in our Instagram, Snapchat world, right? Where kids often have a really hard time sustaining focus on anything. I feel like that too sometimes. I think I need to practice the art of meditation more and more to help calm my brain and come back to center. So these kinds of things really help students as well, which brings me into part 2, mindfulness and relaxation techniques. So let's talk about different techniques that you can use in your classroom that are easy and quick. So let's talk about some of my favorites for helping kids to focus because they're calming, they're simple, and they're easy to teach. So the first one is simple breathing exercises. You can teach kids how to focus on their breathing and just take a moment throughout the day, a couple of times throughout the day, to teach kids to calm their minds and their bodies. So I'm going to give you 2 examples, but if you even Google this and look up breathing exercises for elementary kids, you're going to get a bunch of them. But one example that's really cute is called bumblebee breathing. And again, don't be afraid to use this with your upper elementary students. So ask students to close their eyes, take a deep breath in, and then as they exhale, hum softly like a buzzing bee. The vibration is calming and helps them to focus inward. So you can use the letter Z as your key. So zzz, and let them just feel that vibration. The other one you can use is something called rainbow breathing. Have your students imagine a rainbow, and as they inhale, they trace the arc of the rainbow in their minds. And as they exhale, they imagine the colors spreading out into the room. And if you want to, you could even add in some hand movements to make it more interactive. But those types of breathing activities just help to calm again and center your kids and teach them to focus again on the present moment. Bring them back to the present, calm, and then they can start again. The other thing I love to use with kids is guided visualizations. And I've gotten more and more into this over the years, but it's a great way to teach mindfulness and it doesn't take a lot of time. I have one called the Butterfly Bliss Break that I released at the beginning of the school year, which is great for calming nervous tummies. But this one is an example of lower elementary. I have them for like kindergarten and first grade, second and third grade, and fourth and fifth. But for the Butterfly Bliss Break, you ask your students to close their eyes and imagine that they're in a beautiful garden filled with butterflies. And then you have them picture a butterfly landing softly on their hand or their shoulder. And it's gentle and calm, and they can feel the soft breeze in the air. And then you guide them through slow breathing as they imagine watching the butterfly flutter away with their troubles. It's really cool. And of course, research supports this. It supports the use of mindfulness in the classroom. There was a study published again in Frontiers in Psychology in 2016 that found that mindfulness practices improve attention and self-regulation in children. So again, if your admin questions, does this actually help learning? I really want you to have these studies on hand. Again, I'll link to them in the show notes for you so you can point to the research and say, actually, this is research-based practice. And that's why I built guided visualizations and meditations into my monthly SEL morning work curriculum. And you can get access to that again as part of the Classroom Management Club membership. So many teachers say that their students don't like meditation or they don't enjoy guided meditation. And I think that it's because for so many children, they've just never really been exposed to it on a regular basis. I know I've been working on my meditation practice, and it's something that takes time. And if we model this for kids, like anything, it's a practice, it's a skill that is so valuable to learn. When kids are able to slow down their brains, come back to the present, and be still for a moment, they experience such an incredible feeling of restoration and peace. And I think we all could use a little bit more of that in our lives, especially considering how busy our lives have become with trying to squeeze in so much to every single day. This doesn't have to take a lot of time. The meditations I created were between 5 and 8 minutes. So doing this just once each week on Monday morning and then making it available to children throughout the week so they can use it when they feel like they need it or want it in pockets of free time on their own is such an invaluable contribution to your classroom. Now, the third thing I wanted to share with you today is the importance of gradual focus building. So as we just talked about with meditation practice, a lot of kids struggle with focus simply because they have not built up the stamina yet. So let's talk about some very practical and simple ways you can help them build their focus muscles over time. It's just like going to the gym, right? You go to the gym once and you do a workout, you're not going to see muscles right away. But when you go to the gym and you commit to the practice, you commit to going to the gym every single week, after a month or two, you start to see some muscle, right? That's the same thing about focus building skills. We need to give it time. We need to stay committed to the practice of helping kids learn this. So the first thing I want to remind you of is to start small. So if you're introducing a new activity or a task, keep it very short and manageable at first. So for example, if your students can only stay focused for 5 minutes and you've noticed this, set a timer for 4 minutes. Praise them for their effort. Tell them how proud you are of them for maintaining their focus for 4 minutes, and then gradually increase the time each day, right? Again, we're working on the skill of focus. So you want to praise them for what they're doing well, set a new goal, and keep increasing it in very small increments. The second thing I want to encourage you to do, if you're not already doing this, or a reminder for you is to chunk down assignments. So especially for kids who have ADHD or challenge focusing already, large tasks can be very overwhelming, and they are for me too. I find that when I break things down into smaller bite-sized pieces, it's much easier to get large jobs done, and it's the same for kids. So for instance, instead of asking students to write an entire paragraph in one sitting, we're going to break it down into steps, right? We're going to teach them to write the topic sentence, then we're going to have them go do that and practice the skill. Then we're going to teach them how to add in one detail, and then we're going to have them go practice that skill. And then we're going to teach them how to add in more details, and we're going to have them go practice that skill. And then we're going to have them write the concluding sentence, and then we're going to teach them and have them practice that skill. When we celebrate each completed chunk, before they know it, the whole assignment is done and they can feel super proud of their accomplishment. But chunking it down, small pieces of information, celebrating each chunk as they've accomplished it is going to help to keep them motivated, excited, and feeling proud of the process. And it will help to build those focus skills that we really want. Again, research on task chunking has been done in applied cognitive psychology. There's a study I'll link to for you, and it highlights how breaking tasks into smaller parts improves productivity and reduces cognitive load. And I think we can all relate to this, right? If you take a large assignment and you're maybe in college or university and you look at it, you go, oh my gosh, it seems so big. When you chunk it down and think about what you're going to accomplish every week, not only do you feel more productive, but it reduces that cognitive stress that we feel when we have large tasks. It's the same for our kids. So there you have it. We've explored a lot of powerful and practical ways to teach your kiddos to focus, from brain breaks to games to mindfulness, and finally, gradual focus building techniques. The key is to make these strategies fun. It's important to make them simple and to be consistent so they become a natural part of your students' day. Now, if you try any of these ideas in your classroom, I'd love to hear how they go. Tag me on Instagram or send me a message with your wins. I'm on Beginning Teacher Talk on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you're looking for even more support, don't forget to check out my membership, the Classroom Management Club. And you're going to get access to SEL tools, just like we talked about today, printable resources, and so much more to help you thrive as a teacher. Again, I give you those monthly meditations that you can do with your kiddos in any grade. So if you're curious about the club, you'd like to learn more, you can sign up for my free class, your 5-step classroom management reset, and I'm going to invite you to join us inside the club at the end of that class, and you're going to get a 90-minute PD certificate for your time. All right, before I leave you today, let's review all of the different techniques that I gave you so that you can make a choice about which ones you want to take into your classroom and try right away. Again, as usual, when I do these podcasts, I give you tons of ideas because some things will resonate more with some teachers than others and will not be appropriate for their teaching context, depending on where they're teaching. So I want to make sure that you can always get something actionable from each one of my podcasts that you can grab and use in your classroom right away. So I'm going to quickly recap all of the ideas I've given you, and then I want you to just take 1, 2, or 3 ideas to grab and go with in your classroom right away. So if you're driving, don't write, but if you're somewhere where you can write these down, just take a quick, like a sticky note, write down 1, 2, or 3 ideas, try them. You can always come back to the podcast and grab some more later. Okay. So part 1, we talked about building attention through activities. We talked about brain breaks, and we talked about some very practical brain breaks you can use outside of like Go Noodle, right? So the first one was the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 game, where you bring kids back to the present moment by focusing on their senses. The second one was the dance party freeze, which is so much fun, putting on a song and having kids dance and then freeze in place. The third one was stretch and wiggle, and I told you about the mystery movement break activity, where you can have kids do 3 different activities to music and basically choosing from cards that you give them. If you want to use my resource, you can. It's, again, inside the Classroom Management Club, mystery movement break activity. We talked about games to build focus. So the first game we talked about was Simon Says, and the second one we talked about memory match, right? simple classic games that really do intentionally help to build focus in students. And you might even want to have that intentional conversation with your students about these games will help to improve your focusing skills. So it's fun, but it also is going to really help you to focus longer on other tasks. The second thing we talked about, or part 2, we talked about mindfulness and relaxation techniques, simple breathing exercises like bumblebee breathing or rainbow breathing, or using guided visualizations for kids that are specifically designed for kids. And again, remember, if your admin says, what about this? Like, is this really time that you should be spending in the classroom doing this? You can point to the research that I'm going to link to for you in the show notes to show them that these practices improve attention and self-regulation in children. And then in part 3, we talked about gradual focus building and the importance of starting small and chunking down assignments so that kids feel less overwhelmed, so that they are more productive, and so that we reduce that cognitive load that often is experienced when they have a big assignment and they feel frustrated and they don't know if they can do it. So again, I will link to those studies for you as well if you want to read more, or if you feel like you need to defend doing this type of work in your classroom when you feel like maybe in your own mind you're thinking, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. This is really important. This is the type of strategy. These are the types of activities you can do to truly help kids long term to improve their focus. All right, my friends, thank you so much for spending time with me today and for taking time out of what I know to be a very busy schedule to learn even more tools and tips and tricks to improve your classroom teaching. You are doing better than you think you are. I am so proud of you for continually improving your practice and for staying committed to teaching your students important skills like how to focus. So amazing. Good on you. All right, my friends, until I speak with you again, have a wonderful week. And remember, just because you're a beginning elementary teacher, there's no need for you to struggle like one. Bye for now.